first sign of trouble and you won't know what's hit you.
These belong to a boy there can be no excuse to shield.
Don't even think about saying a word, because you know what'll happen.
Once again, some great results. Detectives thanking Crimewatch viewers on cases that seemed impossible. Let's hope tonight we don't have last month's problems with the phones as we take you live through some dramatic new appeals.
We start with a double murder, and one that leaves a chilling impression because it may not be an isolated crime. Perhaps the killer has shown lethal violence before, and the intense fear is he may do so again. Connie Sheridan and her daughter Jan were stabbed to death 10 weeks ago at their home in a remote part of the Fens on the Cambridgeshire-Norfolk border. They lived on the outskirts of the village of Upwell, breeding whippets. And though they were on good terms with another dog breeder who lived not far away, Connie and her daughter lived a fairly isolated life.
There's a load of food coming for the dogs at 1:30. I do hope you can be back by then. My legs are not so good today, you know. And I don't want to be here on my own when they come. Not when I'm feeling so shaky.
I'll be back before then.
Well, I hope so.
You really shouldn't feed the cats, you know. It just irritates the dogs.
Those dogs can see too much. That's why they bark so much, you know.
Ah, she's just in a mood today. You shouldn't take me no...
Jan and Connie moved in 9 years ago, and I didn't really get to know them very well. And then, about 3 years ago, 2 teenagers broke in and let all the dogs out. And that's when we became more friendly, as we decided that we should keep an eye on each other's property if we were out. Connie was a sweetie. I like Connie very much. We got on very well together.
Oh, hello, Connie, it's Molly. Do you want to send Jan over? I've got newspapers for your kennels.
When Jan was at college and Mum was there on her own, I used to ring up to see if she was all right, and we'd have a nice long chat, you know, putting the world to rights.
Oh, hello, Jan.
The road to the Sheridans' home is a single track with hardly any traffic.
I was wary of any cars I didn't recognise because it's a dead-end road and I'd suffered a number of thefts of farm machinery in the past. So when I didn't see the car return again, I decided to go and have a look for myself.
It was a pale-coloured car parked next to Connie and Jan's house.
G567PVF.
But that registration number doesn't exist. Did he get it wrong, or was the number plate false?
The Fenland drains are noted like for their coarse fishing. There's bream here, there's roach, there's pike, there's zander. I'd seen her out walking the dogs on a regular basis, and on the Thursday we were actually packing up to go home.
Good morning.
Morning.
There were other fishermen at Pingle Bridge in early January. Were you there? And did you see the Whippet lady, or anything unusual? We know Jan went into Outwell that Thursday afternoon. Then, presumably, she went home. Next morning, on the Friday, neither Jan nor Connie had put out their rubbish for collection. It was the first time that had ever happened.
Jan used to collect my dog well on a Friday. Sometimes it would be a Saturday. And of course that weekend it didn't come.
Hello, this is the Sheridan residence. Please leave a message after.
My friends came to pick me up on the Saturday, about midday. When we drove past, I noticed that the curtains were still partially across. Saturday evening, I was still a bit concerned. I looked over the gate and I could see the lights were on in the kitchen, and I thought, oh, that's all right, you know.
But on Sunday, Jan failed to turn up for work at nearby kennels. The owner was alarmed. especially when she heard Jan's whippets in distress.
Jan was very reliable, conscientious, but most importantly, she really loved the dogs. Dogs were her life, her passion. I thought something was wrong because in the 5 years she's worked for us, she's there on the dot. She's never been sick, never not turned up.
Jan!
Have you seen Jan today? She didn't turn up for work and there's no reply at the house, but the dogs are all barking. Something must have happened to them. Just so unlike her to not turn up and not phone.
Ready for lunch, Molly?
I'm going to find my husband.
I'll call the police. Jan, Connie.
We better wait for the police.
The smell and the baying of the dogs made it clear that something terrible had happened.
I still feel they're there. It's just like a bad dream, you know. I can't imagine that they're not there. I'm still going to do things like ring them up and say I'm going out, or coming back from shopping, I don't see Jan's car, and I think, oh, Jan's gone out, and these silly things. And then I say to myself, oh, I must let Connie know that. I think, oh, stop being so stupid. I mean, you think you'll probably wake up and they'll be there.
Paul Chapman, in this truly awful crime, you've been investigating for 10 weeks, you've never divulged the motive. What do you think it is?
We're unclear on the motive. It isn't clear by any means, but we're, at this 10 weeks into the inquiry, we think the motive is actually sexual.
And given how isolated their house is, down this dead-end lane, is it somebody who's local?
It's undoubtedly somebody who currently lives locally, or somebody who perhaps in the past has lived in that locality, has got some very, very good local knowledge. If you know the area, you just wouldn't stumble across Janice and Constance's cottage. It is very, very isolated.
Do you suspect they might also have known either Jan, or, well, either of them, either Connie or Jan?
Yes, if it isn't somebody living locally or has lived locally, it's somebody who's particularly targeted these two ladies.
Now, if you've got somebody who is perhaps sexually rather odd, I mean, with all that implies, someone who would murder, I mean, that's not anything you'd imagine of a relative or a friend. Put all this together, grey car, silver grey car, is that connected?
Yes, we're fairly sure it is. This is a vehicle which was seen by a witness in a farm access immediately next door.
You're not sure what sort of car it is, are you?
We're not. I mean, the witness describes the vehicle as being possibly grey or silver in colour, certainly light-coloured, saloon or hatchback, and around about a medium size.
If you're the brother, sister, flatmate, if you've been a former cellmate, if he's been in prison, if you're an uncle of the offender, is there anything you'd notice about him?
I'd like people to think very, very carefully about somebody close to them in the days leading up to and after the murders of Constance and Janice.
This is at the end of the first week of January?
That's right. Did you notice some change in their behaviour? Perhaps they were traumatised. Perhaps they were actually suffering from some type of stress. And of course, we mustn't forget that after the murders, the offender may well have been bloodstained. They may have washed clothing, which is totally out of character. Or, of course, they could have discarded clothing.
And the offender might have been in the house for quite some time, so he might have been away from his home or from even his place of work for many, many hours.
That's a possibility. In fact, hours running into perhaps a day.
Now, look, let's go back to this car, because obviously it's terribly important, at least to eliminate.
Yes, it is.
The witness, this is the number that he remembered, and it's probably that he transposed a couple of, he was remembered for quite a long time, transposed a number or two.
Yeah.
But somebody's got a car with a number plate like that.
Yes, it's likely that that index number has either been remembered slightly incorrectly, but of course we can't rule out the possibility that it's a false number. And that actually adds weight to the fact that this is a premeditated crime.
Now, a lot of people knew the Whippet lady, and I know you want to contact anybody who knew Jan or who knew Connie. A terrible, terrible crime, this.
That's right, we're looking to local people to provide us with information. People who were visiting the area, and they would include fishermen fishing for pike and sander in the near waterways, and also people within the whippet community. Their whole lives revolved around their love of breeding and showing whippets. Nationally, they travelled the country doing this.
OK, well, even if you don't think you've got a crucial clue, Paul Chapman and his colleagues really need all the help they can get on this one. Please ring if there's anything that rings a bell. There's a reward up to £25,000, but of course there's much more at stake than that. Crimewatch is live. The number is free, 0500 600 600, and there are more detectives, not only here, but standing by in Norfolk, and they're on 01553 665 000. That's Kings Lynn, 665 000.
Calls to Crimewatch really work. Last week, Martin Godwin Gibbs was sentenced to life for the murder of public-spirited charity worker Herbie Williams. Herbie was stabbed on Vauxhall Bridge in London last July. Gibbs had followed him off a bus after Herbie had asked him not to throw litter.
You really shouldn't do that, you know. Leave me alone! Leave me alone! You don't have to behave that way. Leave me alone.
Well, after this reconstruction in September, detectives said Crimewatch viewers came forward with vital evidence, and they pass on their thanks to everyone who called in. On the same day last week, Robert Briscoe Cummins was sentenced for indecent assaults against children. Again, it was call from Crimewatch viewers that cracked that case. And you might remember the two men police wanted to trace outside a jeweller's in connection with these sledgehammer robberies in Crewe. Well, with your help, they've been completely eliminated from the inquiry. But who are the men in the masks? Please call us if you know. 0500 600 600.
Next, the murder of Michael Menson. On our 150th edition, we appealed for information on the musician who 2 years ago was set on fire in Edmonton, North London, in an apparently racist attack. Then last month, we appealed for more information on a phone call that we'd received. 3 men have been charged in connection with Michael's death, 2 of them with his murder.
And you recognise these unusual blue cash bags that were taken in our next case. It's early February and an armed robbery is in progress in Southampton. 2 men try to hide their faces, but when one of them leaps over the counter, he's caught full frame. Imagine, though, the horror of the cashiers. The robber is in his 20s, 5'9", slim, with short mousy hair and a northern, possibly a Yorkshire accent. 0500 600 600, live here, or Hampshire Police have a special incident room on 01703 335 444. That's Southampton, 335 444.
And I've some more good pictures. There's a reward on this case, which isn't surprising given what you're about to see. This is a betting shop in Saltley in the West Midlands last May, and this man appears to be a customer. But a few months later, he's back, wielding what looks like a carving knife. Now, there's a possibility that he has been involved in drugs, and he's obviously very dangerous. He has a broad Dublin accent, looks in his 30s, and is roughly 6 foot tall. Now, these pictures were taken last summer, and he could be anywhere. 0500 600 600, or you can ring 0121 606 7874. That's the local police, Birmingham, 606 7864.
Well, next, a highly organised armed robbery where a security guard was targeted and scared out of his wits. Now, we can't reveal how the gang operated or how they forced the guard to follow their instructions, but maybe we can find new witnesses. Police and Securicorps hope that a reward, £50,000,
The van and do as you're told. Right, listen to me, you listening? Remember what I said, yeah? Mess me about, it'll be the last thing you ever do, understand? No!
The guard described the gunman as heavy-set, unshaven and roughly 6 feet tall. Did you see anything unusual in Thomas More Street early in the morning on Thursday, the 11th of February? There were at least 3 members of the gang, and police believe they made their way towards the Tower of London.
Right now, it's 7:01.
97 to 99 FM, Radio 1.
In sport, it's Howard Wayne as France win comfortably.
Move! Right, just so we both understand, I'm giving the orders, you're following them, okay?
It was at this point that the guard was subjected to a particularly terrifying series of threats. For security reasons, we can't divulge them, but they were so intimidating, he agreed to cooperate.
You better bloody believe we're serious, mate. First sign of trouble and you won't know what's hit you.
On what was virtually a tour of London's landmarks, the guard next remembers being taken along Albert Embankment and from there on into Battersea. They finished up just off Battersea Park Road.
Okay, this is where I talk when you listen. You see this map? This is where you make your drop. You turn left into Smith Square, then into Tufton Street. You're going to see some scaffolding and a skip. We'll be parked behind the skip and you park behind us. When you drops off all the money, and I mean all the money, you're free to go. Do you understand? I said, do you understand? Come on in. Right, out, out. And remember, you call the old building, next thing you'll be calling is an ambulance, right? Go!
What time did you call this? Sorry, mate. Van broke down. I had to get the bloody bus. Been warning you to get that looked at for months. Yeah, well, you know me. I leave everything to the last minute. Do you mind if I drive today, Paul? Determined to get behind the wheel one way or the other, aren't you, mate? OK, Damon Hill. Suits me. But you're on the drop tomorrow. Breakdown or no breakdown. Deal? Deal.
What's the matter with you this morning, Cat? Got your tongue? No. You ain't hardly said a word since we left the depot.
I've just got a lot on my mind. That's all. You know how it is.
Ain't money problems, is it?
Very funny. Drop's coming up. Come on. Out you get.
Turn left into Smith Square, then into Tufton Street. You're going to see some scaffolding and a skip. We'll be parked behind the skip and you park behind us. When you drops off all the money, and I mean all the money, you're free to go. Do you understand?
They was all in their clothes, helmets, security written over them. I thought, well, I'm just transferring a certain amount of money over to one to the other. Honest truth, I did think it was queer, but, well, do a lot of funny things in this world.
Well, Tony Crofts, we appealed at the beginning for witnesses. I mean, have any come forward to that incident at the beginning of the film that we saw?
Yes, we have a witness to the first accident. There was clearly, as you saw in the film, a white Vauxhall, possibly a Cavalier or similar, We appeal for that person to come forward. But I believe that the security vehicle, the small one, was in the area for quite some time. And if it was, there must be other witnesses there as well.
This is the Fiesta?
Correct, yes.
Now, that was quite distinctive, wasn't it, in its way?
Very. I mean, it was very professionally done. It was made to look like a real security vehicle. Somebody may well have prepared it and liveried it, in which case I'd like to know about that.
Now, it was around for some time where the exchange happened in Tufton Street, near Westminster, or around Westminster. What, about an hour or so you think it might have been there?
Possibly longer.
So quite noticeable.
Yes, certainly there for quite some time.
So, I mean, even tourists passing by, because it is quite a busy tourist area.
Well, it is. It's just a stone's throw away from the House of Parliament. Tourists may have been in the area at that time. Certainly people going to work, walking through. People who perhaps took video that day, I'd ask them to check the video for the 11th of February and see if they've got anything that's relevant to this inquiry.
I mean, bearing in mind you don't want umpteen tourist videos sent to you, but if they have anything relevant of that area on the 11th of February, right. Now, what do we know about the men involved then?
There's at least 3 men, possibly 4. They're all white men. The attacker, the man who's described as the gunman by the guards, is the principal target. We have an e-fit of him. He's aged approximately 40 to 45, around 6 foot tall. He's quite heavily built. He's got a round, pudgy face, something of a growth, possibly like a wispy beard, a couple of days' growth. And from that, the hair colour we believe is brown with a little grey.
Now, the guards' van, the Bedford Blue Rascal van, what happened to that once it was taken away by the robbers?
Well, it was last seen by the guard as he was dropped off near his depot at 7:30 a.m. in the morning, as you saw from the film. It's then not seen until the 19th of February in a Husky Place, just off Long Lane SE1. That's between Borough and Bermondsey. It was in a residence parking bay, and I suspect somebody saw that vehicle being left there. If so, that's very important evidence like them come forward.
So several clues and a £50,000 reward, 0500 600 600. Your call could be worth that. So if you're sitting on some information, that might tempt you. You can ring the flying squad at their headquarters if you prefer, 0171 230 2061. That's 0171 230 2061. Or call Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. You can claim the reward and remain anonymous if you prefer.
This is DC Tony Byrne from the robbery squad in Liverpool, and he and his colleagues want to find the owner of this baseball cap. It was found after a robbery at a bank in Allerton 3 months ago, and here are the pictures. 3 men armed with a shotgun had everyone cowering, but they couldn't get past the glass screens to the staff. Believe it or not, the robbers tried to get in through the ceiling, a crazy idea which in fact got them nowhere. As you can imagine, they left behind a lot of very frightened people. So who is this? And who is the man who had the shotgun? He's got a stocking on his face, but he's still very recognisable. He's around 6 foot, in his mid-20s to early 30s, athletic build, and in fact last December he had a stubbly beard. 0500 600 600 is live here, or 0151 777 6586 takes you to the robbery squad in Liverpool. That's Liverpool 777 6586.
Peter Anthony Drury knows we're looking for him. In November last year, his girlfriend in Nottingham was found unconscious with a broken jaw and nose. We want to ask him about it, and if he can explain what happened to her red Ford Escort, which was found abandoned in Southend. If you've seen Peter Drury, give us a call. Please don't approach him, though. He may be dangerous. He's 37, 6 foot, medium to heavy build, with grey hair and a London accent. He may be staying in bedsits. Our free call is on 0500 600 600, or try the incident room on 01636 657 999. That's Newark 657 999.
Now, would you believe a handbag snatch that almost turned to a murder? A couple were sitting outside Sainsbury's in Camden, North London, when 2 boys snatched the woman's handbag and darted off. A 3rd boy then appeared. When the woman's boyfriend gave chase, he was stabbed in the neck. These are the 3 we're looking for. A witness thought one was on roller skates. The knife man looked Arabic or Hispanic and may have had a mole or indeed a mark on his right cheek. Don't they look young? But please, let's find them before somebody gets killed. The victim was very seriously injured. 0500 600 600, or you can call Kentish Town CID on 0181 733 6037. That's 0181 733 6037.
A month ago, a student was raped, and police now have the difficult task of identifying 400 people, one of whom will be the rapist. All 400 were on the Sunday evening Newcastle to Bristol train of February the 21st. Tonight we need to trace everyone on that journey, especially on the stretch between York and Doncaster.
Right, I'm with you.
can't get to sleep, and then when I do, I'm having terrible nightmares. There'll be someone at the door, and the door will open, and I'll think, oh, it's someone come to wake me up or bring me a cup of tea or whatever. It'll be him standing at the door. I don't see why I should be put off my stride by someone else. I'm going to have to get over it. It's going to just have to be done.
Sunday, the 21st of February, 5:15 p.m, with Coach B for smokers at the back.
I've been home for a week for half term. Been excellent. Very good. I didn't really want to be going back.
The next station ahead of the train was York.
Hiya, Anne. How are things, Anne?
Fine, thank you.
Another can of Stella, love?
All right. As long as you behave yourself. There you go. 190, please.
He'd left the cafe by the time the train pulled in. Was he heading south for Birmingham or on towards the West Country? Or can you eliminate from the inquiry that man from the Lemon Tree Cafe?
Where'd you get that from? How'd you get that? Where'd you get that from? Absolutely dire on yours, tell you, Mark. You never made me really hear you. Honestly, what would it?
Don't even think about saying a word, because you know what'll happen.
No, get off! I don't want this!
I told you before. Do you not understand? Shut up!
I knew it was happening, but at the same time, I didn't believe it. It was almost as if it was a dream, like I was watching myself. I wasn't thinking, or I was just doing, really, what I was told to do.
I'm going now. You could sort yourself out. Don't come out at the same time as me.
It wasn't an especially unusual face. It was just, he had dark eyes and dark rings under his eyes. I could smell log on his breath.
Service is now approaching Doncaster. Doncaster, next stop.
I didn't want to be on the train anymore, in case he was still on there, really. I mean, it's a stupid thought now, looking back on it. I can't believe I thought it, but I thought I was going to be in trouble for my parents for getting off the train and missing the train, and I didn't want to be any trouble at all to anyone. And I thought I could sort it all out myself, but obviously not.
I promise I will, Mum. Okay? Stop. Yeah? Okay, yeah? Bye then.
Well, I think about 10 minutes, all right. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Excuse me?
Just a minute, love. Yeah, okay, right. Thank you. Now, what's the problem, love?
Can you get the police?
What's the problem?
Just get the police.
Donrail 4 to Donrail 1. Over. Can you get the transport police to come to platform 8? Immediately.
Meanwhile, south of Doncaster, two men, one tall, were seen smoking in the vestibule between coaches B and C. Who were they? And shortly before Birmingham, a young man came into Coach B, but then seemed to change his mind.
Excuse me, can I have your attention, please? Due to an incident that occurred earlier on this train, we are required to speak to everybody. So it would be appreciated if you could all take a seat.
After a delay at New Street, the train set off towards Cheltenham, Gloucester and Bristol, still with police aboard. And one young man was either restless or else was trying to avoid the police and avoid attention. He'd changed his top since he'd wandered in and out before.
You all right, mate?
Danny, how many people on the train have you contacted? I know you want to get everybody.
Yeah, we've contacted 120 people out of 400, but we're very keen to contact all 400 because they're all potential witnesses that could help us catch the rapist.
Even if they don't think they saw anything particular?
No, what we're doing is we're drawing up the big picture of what happened, and it's very important because this girl was just returning to us today.
Now, you've got to eliminate those two guys, of course, who were seen smoking together in the vestibule. May have been quite, well, nothing to do with this. Certainly the taller guy, we showed him as ginger-haired. Tell us about him.
Yeah, he's described as taller than the other one, at about 6'2", possibly a little bit taller. He's got sandy to ginger hair, and obviously they were very close to the scene of the attack. So it's vital that they come forward so we can eliminate them.
Yeah, he does. Now we've got a replica of the ring. It's a pretty chunky thing, isn't it? And of the watch. We think the watch was like that. Just tell us about these two.
Yeah, the watch is described as similar to the one that the attacker was wearing, and the ring is a very good likeness. The man is described as 5'9", medium build. He's got short dark hair, which is gelled and has a fringe. So if people can focus on they fit that description and this combination, then to come forward. And also, if anybody has recently stopped wearing this combination of ring and watch, or stops us after the programme has been out, then please contact us.
Okay, and please, if you're on the train, do give us a call. 0500 600 600 is live to the studio. DI Danny Snee has a team of detectives here, and he's also got colleagues standing by in Doncaster too. They're on a free phone number, 0800 783 1258. And incidentally, Virgin Trains have put up a reward.
Well, thankfully, as you can see, our phones are up and running this month, and we have had a lot of people calling in. One or two possible leads on the car found parked near the home of Connie and Janice Sheridan in Norfolk. One person said that he was in the Air Force who thought that a former colleague of his had a car just like the one described. Also, a call naming a boyfriend that Janice used to have, previously unknown to police. A prison officer called in recognising one of the Southampton armed robbers, and a police officer called in, and he thinks that he recognised the main man in the Securicor robbery. So obviously all these need to be followed up, but all very encouraging so far.
I am, yes.
This is DC Emma Barnett from the Child Protection Unit at Hastings. She's busy on the phone, but she's very anxious to trace this man wanted in connection with child sex offences. Gary Ashley, sometimes known as Gary Terence Thompson. These pictures were found in his flat 19 months ago on the 13th of August. You may know him as a photographer, or perhaps working in a youth club, or as a swimming pool attendant. Probably close to children anyway. Tell us where he is on 0500 600 600, free here, or call the Child Protection Unit on 01424 425 000. That's Hastings 425 000.
A brave victim snatched this from his attackers, but it's not what he thought, or even what I thought when I first saw it. Believe it or not, it's an unusual cigarette lighter, and we need to trace whose it was and where it's from. It happened on the London Underground at Dollis Hill Station. The victim's just been attacked in an attempted robbery and is lying unconscious as these two walk away. Were they involved? Both are in their early 20s. The one on the right is 5'10", with a slim face and a sharp, neat moustache. The other is 5'8", well built with lots of hair. You might recognise him from the M on his cap. If you do, free call here to the studio, 0500 600 600. And British Transport Police are waiting on 0171 387 0354. That's 0171 387 0354.
Well, after the phones broke down last month, we were sadly unable to take very few calls on the murder of 15-year-old Hannah de Turville. She disappeared from Harrow Road in London in January last year. Her body was found on Horsenden Hill later the same month after a call to the lesbian and gay switchboard.
Don't worry, this is a confidential service. And you found it? From the concrete post, 150 metres in a southeasterly direction. Down the hill, shrubs begin. Where it levels out, and the body, you say, is in the wooded bit.
Now, we still don't know who made that call, but two people who did contact the police are being urged to do so again. They're Steve from Manchester and Kit. Now, this is a very difficult case, so please try and help for the family's sake.
It's like every time I see a mother and daughter, I envy, you know, that mother. She's still with me, you know, she's as if she's still, you know, here. Then my memories will never fade. She's there.
Murder, robbery, possession of a firearm and aggravated burglary. That's the catalogue of crimes this man was sentenced for. This is the photo taken of him in prison, but he's now escaped. He's described as extremely violent. His real name is Thomas Christopher Tangney. He calls himself Thomas Connors and maybe other things besides, and has a tattoo saying Tom on his upper right arm. He's 5'10", slightly built, short grey-brown hair with a London accent. Call us if you've seen him on 0500 600 600 or else 01903 231 821. That's Worthing 231 821.
Griselda Williamson was a care assistant, but she's disappeared. And so, by coincidence, have the credit cards and jewellery of the 90-year-old lady she was looking after in Guildford, Surrey. Griselda Williamson was questioned, but then skipped bail. She's small at 5'3", about 28, plump, and has a London accent. She may turn up in South Norwood or Wembley, both of which are in London. Ring us here, 0500 600 600 or 01483 531 111. That's Guildford, 531 111.
I've actually just had a couple of calls come in here on the Norfolk inquiry. It would look very, very interesting indeed. And there's not much I can tell you about it at the moment. We've also got some details of one man, and I tantalising, I'm afraid I can't tell you which inquiry it's on. Two people have called in, same name, pretty much the same address, and police will be looking into that now, which is why I can't tell you which case it is.
Well, now the sort of mystery that the likes of Sherlock Holmes or Miss Marple would probably want to have a crack at, except that in thrillers, the clues are planted for you and you don't need to worry much about the victim. But here, the victim is real, and so is the anguish of his family and friends. Stephen Borough lived on Humberside, working at a fish processing plant for Birdseye. One day, 5 years ago, he disappeared.
Nah, he's got away. You're losing your touch, mate. You reckon? Hey, found an old scarecrow.
That's not a scarecrow. That's a body.
No way.
You don't put shoes on a scarecrow.
It was a clothed skeleton.
I think we better call the police.
It was stretched out as though in a coffin, but lying in a ditch 30 feet from the A1. A 100 miles north in Grimsby, but 5 years earlier.
You all right, Rod?
Yeah. Look, Mum, take this and get us in a nice joint for Sunday.
Thanks, Dad.
See you Sunday.
Stephen regularly saw his mum, but he never made it back for Sunday lunch. He was living alone because 6 weeks before his marriage had collapsed. But he was a man of routine, and his wife is bewildered by his sudden disappearance.
He's not the type who just walk away and leave everything. He's not that type of person. He'd like to know where he was going to be, or even what he was going to be eating for his tea next week. He wasn't an impulsive person. His glasses, he can't see to the end of his nose without his glasses. He never left washing up. He always washes up straight away. When we cook a dinner, we used to wash up before we eat it. One of his shoes was in the middle of the stairs. He'd been decorating my son's bedroom, and there was paint, and the paintbrushes were still in the middle of the room. He didn't even put the lid on the painting, which is not something he would ever do.
A day or two after Stephen suddenly left, he was spotted wandering down a country road at 1 a.m, miles from home.
I think that if he had been closer to a village or a town, and if he had been walking more easily, I wouldn't have stopped and picked him up, because it's not something that I would normally do. But I really felt that he really presented no threat, and in fact looked to be in a rather difficult predicament.
As long as it's not a problem. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. It's a horrible night to go out walking. You like the king? You know, Elvis.
Roy Orbison. He was the greatest. Do you know why he wore the dark glasses?
Because he had wonky eyes and he didn't want people to see them.
No, his sight was damaged in the fire that killed his wife and daughter.
I was just a myth.
I will punish you as your deeds deserve, declares the Lord. God gives, but he can take away.
You all right?
Things seem to be going wrong at home. The Lord says, I will punish the world for its evil, the wicked for their sins.
I think my God's a bit more forgiving than yours. So you decided to take to the road?
I'm going to visit some church friends in Peterborough. Their church is on an estate, the other side of the city.
Do they know you're coming?
We know this was definitely Stephen because so many details emerged in conversation.
I live in this village. Look, how long have you been out on the road?
14 hours.
Listen, you've been out there a long time. Do you want to come in for a hot drink or something?
I don't want to be any trouble.
You'll not get another lift. Not this late. Just come in to get warm at least.
When I got him home, I felt that he was quite pleased to be there, and he began to relax, so finally he decided to stay. I fixed him up with a sleeping bag on the settee downstairs. When I woke early in the morning, I found the sleeping bag folded up on the settee, and he'd gone.
"4 years after Stephen vanished, and a year before his body was discovered, someone seemed to be searching in the hedgerow where, unknown to local residents, Stephen's body must have lain.
Well, the first car's a sort of Fiat Uno hatchback. That's parked at the end of the field.
Right, at the end of the field. Uno hatchback. Anything else?
And there's someone walking up and down the hedge shining a torch.
And can you see anybody else there at all?
There's a big Rover 800 driving up and down the road. I mean, it might be nothing, but I just thought you ought to know.
What were they searching for? Had those people simply lost something and had gone back to retrieve it? Who was driving up that muddy track beside this field in Stibbington in October 1997, 12 months before the human remains were found?
I do believe it's him, but I just don't want it to be. Nobody ends up like that, in a ditch with nobody with them. Nobody. Nobody deserves that.
Now, we have a map here of East England where Stephen's last known movements were. We'll come to that in a moment. But, John Nabbott, it's a mystery, isn't it? I mean, watching that film, you might think, given his state of mind, he might have wandered into the field, died of natural causes, maybe committed suicide. Or was it suspicious?
Well, scientifically, we cannot establish the cause of death. I mean, for example, there are no skeletal injuries, but there are elements that do cause suspicion. For example, as you've heard, it was unusual behaviour for him. Then there was the mysterious incident in the field, 4 years almost to the day of his disappearance. And finally, the disposition of the body. The body was laid on its back. I'm told that if somebody dies of natural causes, there's a tendency for them to curl up in the fetal position, and this didn't happen in this particular case.
Now, you are convinced, are you, that it was Stephen? I mean, it's difficult to tell, isn't it, in that state?
The body was found in the clothing that Stephen left home in, and also there were personal effects that have been identified by his family. In particular, a house key which fits the house.
Now then, we know roughly some of his movements anyway. He left home in Grimsby, was picked up by that gentleman in Middle Raisin who you've eliminated from your inquiries. You're convinced that he's genuine. Now, you want to know how he got from Grimsby to Middle Raisin, and then what happened after he was dropped off in Wellingborough.
Yes, indeed. For the sake of Mary and the family, I need to know what happened to him from when he left Wellingborough until he arrived where the remains were found near Peterborough. I need to know that. Tantalisingly, on New Year's Day, the incident room at Grimsby received a phone call from somebody who didn't leave their name. And I would desperately like to speak to that gentleman again.
Well, let's just hear a recording of that now.
Hi, I think I saw John Vara, or Yara, or whatever his name is, at the Grimthorpe Little Chef. He asked me for a lift. He told me he was a lorry driver and that he had angina and diabetes and that he needed a lift down south.
Now, that caller didn't leave a name or a telephone number, so if it was you or if you recognise that name or that voice, then please call in. Call if you know anything, please. It's free. It's 0500 600 600. We're live, and detectives here are waiting for your call. There are others standing by in Grimsby, and the number is 01472 362 778. That's Grimsby 362 778.
Recognise these? A pair of shoes and a Club Med sports bag. They belong to a boy that there can be no excuse to shield. He assaulted a girl who was walking home with her sister near Wandsworth Common in South London last September. He was with two friends. The girls ran off and telephoned their father, and he came to collect them. He saw three boys in the area and he gave chase. The main suspect dropped his shoes and the bag. He's small and slim at 5'5" to 5'6", and his T-shirt had an orange circular motif. Please ring us 0500 600 600 or the local number 0181 247 8457. That's 0181 247 8457. We always say reassuringly that serious crime is rarer than people tend to think. But on the other hand, if you've been burgled once, there's an increased risk of being victimised again. One householder realised this in Staffordshire after a break-in, and he installed his own CCTV. A few months later, last October, this is what he saw. This man has tried knocking on the front door, and when he finds no one's there, he starts peering through the windows and generally checking out the house. What happened after this is an attempted break-in. Who is this man? He's late 20s or early 30s, average height and build, and with receding dark hair. 0500 600 600 is the free call here to us in the studio, and there's a local number 201 785 257 717. That's Stafford 257 717.
And now, just a reminder of some of the faces you've seen tonight. This man is wanted for an armed robbery at a bank in Allerton. Where is he now? Peter Anthony Drury knows we're looking for him on a serious assault charge. And Gary Ashley is wanted for child sex offences. And finally, this man is described as extremely dangerous. Do you know where he is, Thomas Tangney? If you have any information on any of these cases, or for that matter on any other cases we've shown tonight, please call us now.
We'll be here taking calls till midnight, 0500 600 600. You'll see other numbers on CFAX, page 621. You can email us at crimewatchuk at the BBC. And in any case, you can call Crime Stoppers anonymously if you want, 0800 555 111. Or you can talk to someone at Victim Support. There'll be people there until 2 a.m. The number's 0845 30 30 900. Join us for the update in 40 minutes' time. And if you can't stay up, well, next month's Crimewatch is on Tuesday, the 20th of April. Whatever happens, don't have nightmares, do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.